Good afternoon again. So I'm going to call to join me to the stage the Secretary General of AFCAC. We need some more of your words of wisdom. The Regional Director of ISAF, the Regional Director of WACAF, the Director General of Rwanda CAA. If you can give them a round of applause. Welcome anywhere. Don't be afraid. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Yes. Does SG want us as well? An extra round of applause for the SG AFCAC, please, ladies and gentlemen.
SG, apparently they like you so much. You have greater words of wisdom to go with the nice gray hair that you have.
Okay. So thank you, gentlemen. So as drone technologies are changing our landscape, and African countries tend to benefit the most from these unmanned aircrafts in terms of logistics, we would like to discuss on this panel the framework for regulations that could help these technologies reach their full potential. And so I would like to start with you, Mr. RD of WACA, Mr. Prosper. What is your vision of how ICAO could help facilitate the introduction of drones on the African airspace?
Merci beaucoup, Isabelle.
Je vous en prie.
Je voudrais aussi remercier à travers l'autorité de l'aviation civile, mon ami Silas, le gouvernement du Rwanda pour cet événement important. Et en même temps, à l'adresse de la Banque mondiale, remercier pour un partenariat gagnant avec l'Organisation de l'aviation civile internationale que mon collègue et moi nous représentons en Afrique. Quelle est la vision? Je voulais d'abord faire une pique au secrétaire général de la CAFAC qui venait de me dire que son panel était le plus jeune. Et je lui souhaite la bienvenue à un panel de moins jeunes. Okay. Quelle est la situation? Il y a quelques années, le phénomène des avions télépilotés, ou des drones comme on les appelle génériquement, était perçu comme une menace ou un défi. Je crois que depuis hier et avec les discussions d'aujourd'hui, la question n'est plus de savoir si on a besoin de drones. Nous avons écouté lors du premier panel, nous avons vu les applications, nous avons besoin d'être en bonne santé, nous avons besoin de manger, nous avons besoin de paix, nous avons besoin d'échanger. Les sinistres, les catastrophes s'invitent dans notre vie, et on doit les gérer. Et nous voyons que les drones sont une réponse efficace. Et notre panel qui doit réfléchir à la manière de faciliter, de favoriser cette activité qui est multidisciplinaire et nous fait du bien. Comment le libérer, surtout en espace inférieur, parce que c'est le domaine où cela évolue. Maintenant, du point de vue de l'OACI, ma sœur et consoeur Leslie l'a dit ce matin, nous avons un rôle de normalisation, d'élaborer des normes qui doivent être traduites dans les règlements, les lois et règlements des États pour organiser l'activité de l'aviation civile, pour qu'elle soit, disons, se déroule en toute sécurité, qu'on ait la sûreté. Et comme elle l'a aussi dit, nous avons 5 objectifs stratégiques pour la communauté de l'aviation civile internationale qui soutiennent 15 des objectifs de développement durable de l'agenda 2030 du système des Nations Unies. Donc, nous devons favoriser cette activité des drones. Et pour l'aviation civile, jusqu'à présent, nous nous concentrons sur les aéronefs télépilotés qui sont télépilotés par des pilotes au sol. Parce que pendant un certain temps, après, je dirais, le rêve de notre ancêtre mythologique Icare, qui voulait imiter l'oiseau, nous avons, après les dernières guerres mondiales, découvert les bienfaits de l'aviation civile avec une tentative de la conférence de Paris en 1919 et surtout la conférence de Chicago qui nous a donné la convention de Chicago qui régit l'aviation civile internationale. Et il est important de voir que l'article 8 de cette convention, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a 75 ans, il y a des gens qui se sont assis et qui ont vu qu'un jour, le monde aura besoin de véhicules aériens sans pilote à bord. Et l'OACI travaille dans ce cadre. Nous travaillons dans ce cadre et la complexité des avions pilotés avec un système sol, avec un système aérien et avec une cohabitation, surtout en espace non ségrégué, nous travaillons à ce que la sécurité soit appliquée tout au long de la chaîne. Ça inclut des règles qui sont traduites dans les annexes de l'OACI, en partie l'annexe 2 à la Convention. Il y a la certification des systèmes, l'octroi des licences aux pilotes, la reconnaissance de ces licences, la surveillance de ce système. Et la reconnaissance de cette licence nous amène à la problématique de l'internationalisation des opérations des avions télépilotés et aussi des services. Il y avait une question de ce matin, c'est-à-dire est-ce qu'on peut rendre certains services au-delà des frontières nationales? Et l'OACI travaille sur ce domaine-là et c'est le rôle des normes. Maintenant, tout en favorisant ce travail avec, je venais de parler des normes et pratiques recommandées de l'OACI, il y a des éléments indicatifs qui ont été élaborés. Je parle de tout ça parce que Leslie va répondre aux questions, s'il y en a, sur ces questions des normes. Mais tout en faisant ce travail, nous avons une approche de gestion de la sécurité. Et la gestion de la sécurité veut que un système intégré de sécurité inclut au niveau des États un programme national de sécurité et au niveau de l'industrie, y compris maintenant les opérateurs de drones, un système de gestion de la sécurité, de sorte qu'il y a une supervision et des opérations des drones, une supervision des opérateurs et au niveau des opérateurs, une gestion des risques de sécurité. Et ce faisant, il y a une problématique, c'est-à-dire qu'il faut un équilibre entre la protection, c'est-à-dire la réglementation, la législation, et puis la production, c'est-à-dire libérer l'activité, créer des conditions pour que l'activité apporte tous les bénéfices qui y sont attendus, y compris les opportunités d'affaires, comme nous l'avons dit. Donc, il faut trouver une balance à ce niveau. C'est un peu, je dis, notre approche en tant qu'OACI. Et parce que nous sommes sur le continent africain, je crois que c'est important de voir ce qui est en train de se passer ici au Rwanda. Mais c'est important partout en Afrique parce qu'on n'a pas besoin d'avoir un pays qui a plus de 1000 collines, comme ici au Rwanda. Mais en Afrique, nous avons des déserts, nous avons des forêts très denses, nous avons des fleuves. Donc, c'est-à-dire que la nature nous impose des défis tels que le créneau des drones est une opportunité. Le président l'a dit ce matin, tous ces défis sont des opportunités. Et nous pensons que notre contribution est dans l'assistance des États à mettre en place un cadre qui soit souple, comme l'a dit la CAFAC tout à l'heure, et qui permette que l'activité se déroule et qu'en même temps on ait de la sécurité. Je pourrais m'arrêter là pour le moment.
Merci beaucoup,
Merci.
Monsieur Prosper. Mr. Barry, building on your colleague from the WACAF region, what would you say are some of the key strategies that the ISAF region could put into place so as to help make the process as smooth as possible to harmonize the standards that he was just speaking of, which will regulate the operators, the civil aviation, and the users of drones.
Thanks very much. As you mentioned, as you said, I'll just build up on what Prosper has mentioned and build up on what Leslie mentioned this morning. And not limited to ASAF region, but I want to talk on behalf of the developing world and Africa in particular. I think one of the key strategies we'd like to have is to look at the interregional cooperation. Building a framework where we are going to develop harmonized processes, harmonized policies, harmonized regulations, harmonizing and learning from our best practices is critical. We are lucky that we have regional entities, the African Union, regional safety organizations, regional economic communities, on which we can base some of our initiatives. So I think number one is to make sure that we get united, we cooperate and we collaborate. This morning they mentioned about a number of countries that in Africa that have regulations. We have had the privilege to look at some of these regulations. Each one of them is very different from the other, and they don't even talk to the other. So it's going to be difficult for African states to have a uniform or a rich drone operating environment if we keep on in a segregated manner. And we cannot avoid going into international unmanned aircraft operations. It's coming, it's here, and we must embrace it. And that cannot be embraced if we do not have regulations and processes that are talking to each other. There is hunger and thirst for guidance in this sector. And for aviation, we have to provide that guidance and leadership. And as Leslie mentioned this morning, for a long time we sort of shied away, not really shied away, but we were behind the scenes, but the industry has now, we and the industry have now agreed that we have to be at the same pace, and our leadership in this sector has been given back. We have it, so we are going to provide that leadership and guidance, and it's critical. So I think it's important as ICAO provide that leadership and guidance. We currently have an African Union and ICAO study that is going on the contributions of aviation to agriculture and rural development. And when we were doing that study, we realized that this initiative, unmanned aircraft systems and drones, are key and central in the development of agriculture and rural economies in Africa. And listening to what the presenters have been mentioning here, you can see that this initiative is going to tremendously unlock the potential that we have in Africa. Not only in the sectors of emergency, health, and other sectors, but you can see that we're going into e-commerce, we're going into road traffic control, in so many areas. Literally every sector of our life is going to be affected or improved by unmanned aircraft systems. So I would say in a nutshell, this is going to be a fundamental change, not only to aviation, but the mankind as a whole. Introduction of technology, mobile phones, drones, are going to change what the life as we have always known it, and we're moving to another era, and we're happy. I think we should thank God that we're part of that era that is enjoying this benefit of our innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Now looking at a more national approach, DG, if you could enlighten us and tell us what is some word of advice or some guidance that you would offer to other CAAs trying to implement drone regulations at home.
Thank you very much. And like Isabella mentioned during her introduction, we want to welcome you to Rwanda, and we appreciate that you accepted our invitation. This is an event that was organized and brought to this level by the partnership with World Bank, the Democratic Republic of Congo, CAA, and the Rwanda government. So we really appreciate that you came to participate and share your wisdom and ideas. So what do we share with others is that ours was basically anchored on the fact that the government policy allows and supports innovation in all ways. But in this case, we happen to be dealing with unmanned aircraft. But when you look around, there is a general support as a policy to innovation. But that said, I also want to mention and recognize that we largely borrowed from what ICAO has done over time. Because ICAO has been here for close to a century, it's just a quarter away. So you can imagine the amount of work they have done. And I will be very specific on the references that we used, we borrowed from as we were building and developing our regulations that are purely performance-based. So we borrowed from some of the manuals, Manual 10019. We borrowed from another doc, 9857. We borrowed from the Advisory Circular 328 in its part 3.2. And Annex 1 and Annex 2, and Annex 2 and Annex 19. Annex 19 specifically on SMS and SSP, which requires that you conduct a risk assessment. And this is the path we followed in developing our regulations or the legal framework. And this has largely informed the development of our regulations. The other thing was, because of an environment where our government supports innovation, our leadership quickly took immediate steps in establishing a national strategic committee and a technical committee that involved all stakeholders. And this expedited, in a very organized manner, the development of these regulations. So like many other speakers mentioned earlier, it's important that we put to the forefront the intended use or desired end state for the technologies that are being developed, and then work around that innovation initiative and develop a legal framework or a policy that supports and ensures there is safety in abundance and security as we advance the technologies that come forward. And we are also very open to share the journey we have taken from technical and policy perspective, and any resources, including human beings that we have on our teams, to share with other members on the continent and beyond. So I will leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Deje. And now going back up to the continental level, as Secretary General, you've enlightened us with your presentation about the importance of drones and the potential that they have in the African continent and the different use cases around the continent, whether it was Mozambique or Rwanda or Ghana. I would like to ask, as the leader of all these civil aviation authorities around the continent, what are some of the ways that you are envisioning that would help with the coordination of all the different CAAs? Is there any call to action that you would have for them?
Thank you, moderator. I don't know how I became panelist. However, in my brief presentation, I have indicated that there is a policy framework at the AUC level. The heads of state have endorsed the outcome of the Executive Council decision on the panel established for technology and innovation. They have set time frame of 2024. They have made a lot of resolutions which I have indicated. I don't want to repeat them, but we need to focus on having a flexible regulation, harmonized regulation in the continent, and to facilitate the working environment and operational requirement for drones so that the continent will benefit from the service arising from this innovative technology. At a states level, I have observed that most of our states have already started benefiting from drones. As the regional director mentioned, that there are regulations established in those states. How they are harmonized with that of the framework of ICAO, with that of the framework of the AUC, and as the DG Rwanda mentioned, how compliant it is to the various provisions of ICAO, because we are talking about sharing of airspace, safety, and security, to mention among few. In my opinion, there is a need to establish coherence. There is a policy framework. What's next is to work together, not only among the regulators, but by involving all stakeholders, beneficiaries, be it from the manufacturer or from the user's perspective. We need to have a coherence of policy framework, collaborating, and sharing of experiences. I would like to extend my appreciation to the government of Rwanda for establishing such a forum, which is the first of its kind. 3 of our member states have indicated that they are using drones for various purposes. There was no forum in the past to share experiences. There is a need for sustainability of such a forum, so that we'll share experiences. This technology is fast moving. We need to benefit from each other and also work with our policymaker, the AUC, standard and recommended practice developer, ICAO, and international partners to work with us in the harmonization of and establishment of a regulatory framework. Whether we like it or not, the services of drones will continue. Therefore, there is a need to cope up as regulators and also to collaborate with them. This is what I can envisage, what should be done in near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. At this point, if you allow, gentlemen, I would like to open it to contributions from the floor. As the Secretary General has mentioned, there is interest from other regulators in the room to have a continued dialogue on a regular basis, and this was emphasized by the 2 regional directors as well. I'd like to have the mics being brought in the room to representatives of the Civil Aviation Authority of DRC. I believe we have a contribution from the floor. If we can have a microphone brought to the front row. Monsieur le Directeur Général, on va vous passer un micro.
Merci beaucoup pour m'avoir passé la parole. Je viens soutenir les panélistes dans leur multiples interventions. Je crois que la technologie des drones dont nous sommes en train d'observer les performances aujourd'hui à partir de Rwanda, c'est une technologie qui va nous apporter certainement un certain nombre d'avantages pour le peuple de nos différents pays surtout, le Rwanda et la RDC qui expérimentent déjà qui fait déjà la première expérience en Afrique. Je crois que les réglementations vont nous aider à pouvoir assainir bien avant même que les drones commencent à proliférer au-dessus de nos États, pour nous apporter effectivement des avantages multiples, que ce soit dans l'apport de bien-être aux populations riveraines déjà du lac Kivu, par exemple, qui se trouve être les premiers terrains d'expérimentation. Je pense qu'il faut plutôt encourager cette initiative de nos deux États qui ont contribué à ce que la compétition se fasse pour la première fois au niveau de notre région. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, directeur général. Je pense que nous avons aussi une contribution du directeur général du Mali. We'll also have a contribution from the Director General of Mali, front row. Mr. Director General, the floor is yours.
Merci bien, madame. Et bonsoir à ce cher public. Je vais profiter de votre micro pour m'acquitter d'un devoir qui est de remercier les autorités rwandaises et tous ses partenaires pour avoir organisé cet important forum. Je remercierai particulièrement mon ami et frère, le DG Silas, pour l'invitation personnelle qu'il a voulu me faire. De ce que j'ai vu depuis hier à Karondi, à Zipline, toute une industrie, et de ce que j'ai entendu depuis ce matin, je crois qu'il est désormais temps pour nous de mettre en place les politiques qu'il faut, la réglementation qu'il faut et l'industrie qu'il va falloir, les conditions qu'il faut créer pour appeler l'industrie du drone, surtout pour un pays comme le Mali qui est dans une situation sécuritaire assez aiguë, comme pratiquement dans toute la région du Sahel. En ce qui concerne le Mali, nos activités se limitaient jusque-là à donner des autorisations en confinant les drones dans des espaces de façon à assurer la sécurité avec le trafic normal. Et c'était une politique avec moi, mettre en place la réglementation qu'il faut en m'appuyant sur ceux qui ont déjà fait quelque chose, notamment le Rwanda, pour le cas que je sache, et ensuite de créer les conditions pour attirer l'industrie aéronautique. Encore une fois, merci de m'avoir donné cette occasion-là. Bon après-midi à tous.
Merci beaucoup, directeur général. Nous avons aussi, juste à côté de vous, we also have the representative from the Sudan CAA. Mr. Director General, if you'd like to speak along the lines as well.
Well, thank you very much. I would like to echo my fellow aviators of thanking the Rwandan government and thanking the partners and the World Bank who they made this possible. And I will echo also Mr. Secretary General of emphasizing to have making this forum annually. And I'm going to speak directly into a suggestion without further ado on saying the importance of regulating the drones. If we can suggest to have like the AFCAC initiative of having everybody rally on what the Rwandan have done as a base, and then work with the ICAO to establish these regulations and bring everybody into it rather than working individually. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director General. And I believe we have one more contribution from Sierra Leone representative.
Hello, thank you for that. Mine is more a question. Thank you, gentlemen, for that vast array of experience that you've shared with us today. My question is around the regulations. From your experiences, have you had to navigate between making the regulations homogeneous or directly addressing individual countries' concerns? So what's the tightrope that you've been walking when you crafted the regulations between a country's need for their culture, for their experiences to be reflected in the regulations, and also the need for the regulations to be homogeneous across the regions or across the world?
Gentlemen, who would like to tackle that one first? Qui voudrait commencer avec la question? Mr. Barry, if you'd like to take that question. So do we need to have the same regulations copy-pasted all across the continent, or can we have regulations that are custom-made for the needs of a specific nation?
I'd asked you not to give me the hardest questions. Now you have given them to me. I think Leslie, I was discussing with Leslie this morning, and she reliably informed me that we now have the model regulations on which other states can build their or customize their regulations. So that should form the foundation. And that was lacking for a very long time. But now that we have these model regulations, I think it's a good basis for those states that don't have any, and for the states that have already developed them, to use it as a template of aligning what they have already developed to make sure that all the provisions are being reflected. That said, I think it would be important to listen to Cyrus, and he tells us how they have done it. As a live example, how did they develop theirs, and how it has worked in their end, because we are all looking at the same goal, having harmonized provisions, taking into consideration the specific national stakeholders and data that they have, but making sure that it can allow inter-state or regional operations. Silas, maybe you could help us and give us the right example, maybe possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Prosper, yes?
Thank you very much. Mr. Tefera, the Secretary General of AFCAC, when he was concluding his presentation, he raised the issue of how can we have in the same airspace what we are used to, that is general air traffic, and now drones traffic. In the set of guidance materials produced by ICAO with the leadership of Leslie, we have in that particular area, we have recently issued the concept of airpass operations, which is very important. And we also have a framework for harmonized integration of what we call UTM, that UAS traffic management, into ATM. I want to say you have this guidance material, and you also have SAPs, mainly standards, which are expected to be translated in state legislation, regulations. This is what my colleague Barry was calling, I would say, the common denominator. That is the minimum. Now, I want to build on the experience of Rwanda, which is a member of a regional safety organization, that is CASOA. And there's a process, I discussed with the executive director of CASOA, there's a process whereby not only regulators, but industry is involved in the decision-making process. That is even in the rule-making process, so that the national regulations would also take into consideration the specific needs of the industry in the states, which may make a difference. So standards are minimum requirements to guide the states, but we do expect states will customize or adapt or complement this framework with national specific issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Provost. So I hope that answers your questions, that there is a minimum and then each country can then customize. I'd like to maybe open the floor for a few questions. And we have one contribution before these questions. Mr. Deja, you have a word to say?
Do you want to say this?
You want to? Okay, perhaps we'll have a question. I think they wanted to get your feedback in terms of Rwanda's procedures and how we've been able to implement regulations at the level that we have today, or if you have any challenges that we tackled and what are the lessons learned.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said earlier, the bedrock for the development of the legislation is there. We only need the most critical thing is when you look back at your respective CAS, ask yourself one simple question. In your organization, do you have a drones department, unmanned aircraft systems department? If you do not, then you're not prepared to deal with it, to start with. That's what it means. Because you look at all those areas that we know, leg, org, regulations and others, if you want to integrate the regulations, then it must be reflected in all those areas. The second one is there must be acceptance, and acceptance at all levels. Public acceptance, private sector, and all structures of our states. The last one is we can't run away from harmonizing what we are doing, because end of it, we are a global entity that is governed by ICAO at the global level. And there must be some level of sanity that can only be achieved through harmonization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deja. So I would like to challenge the room to ask any questions, any burning questions you have for all, basically, the major decision makers on the continent with regards to civil aviation. Does anyone have a question? Yeah, yes, there's one question there. And for the sake of time, as I hear George saying, we can maybe take 3 questions at a time, and then we'll head to the conclusion. We have one question there, the gentleman on the left-hand side.
Yeah, good afternoon. Captain Craig Cleave from Ken Drone, Drone Training School in Kenya. Kenya published its first regulations in September 2017, and they were very quickly cancelled. And we're still waiting for the second round of regulations to come through almost 2.5 years later. One of the primary reasons for the cancellations were concerns over security. And I believe that a lot of countries in Africa and other parts of the world are not adopting drone regulations because of concerns over security. What I would like to hear from countries that have adopted drone regulations and begun is what the realities on the ground have been, what the experiences have been. Thank you.
We answer it together? Right. A lady, yes. You have a question?
You. My question goes directly to the DG.
Please state your name.
Oh, I'm Deborah Avera. I'm Rwandese. My question goes directly to the DG. Among so many regulations put in place regarding drones in Rwanda, there are fees that are supposed to be paid by owners of the drones. Let me say, in case I get some money, I buy my niece or my child a drone. There's so many fees involved, like registering my drone and the ownership license that goes about to $500. And every time I want to fly a drone, it could be in my neighborhood or somewhere else, I want to fly a drone, just maybe capturing pictures, I have to pay some money that is about $5, which seems to be quite high for regular citizens. So my question is, can you convince us on what you're based on to establish such a regulation? Thank you.
Last question.
Merci. C'est Lutaïsire Muziga Jean Bosco. Safety and Quality Advisor de CARIS. Ce forum nous apporte en plus à ce qui concerne la vulgarisation pour que les gens comprennent pourquoi l'activité des drones ne se développe pas. Je pense que le problème de sécurité, de la réglementation de sécurité ne devrait pas se poser, puisqu'il y a des normes qui sont standards. Mais je pense que le problème qui se pose, c'est le problème de sûreté, sécurité. Et c'est ça qui fait que les États, à mon avis, ne permettent pas le développement de l'activité du drone. Le Rwanda a traversé cela puisque je pense qu'il a un système aujourd'hui plus adéquat qui montre qu'il permet déjà de fonctionner, mais tout en gardant la sécurité. Je pense que ce qu'il faut pour les pays africains, puisqu'il s'agit du forum, African Drone Forum, devrait se mettre ensemble pour harmoniser les réglementations, pour éviter la perte du temps et la perte d'argent. Il est inconcevable que chaque pays se mette à côté pour élaborer un règlement qui doit amener à la même chose, la sécurité et la sûreté.
Merci beaucoup. We have one more question. I'm told there was a young student at the back who had a question. If you can just get the mic, and that will be the last question of the day. Of this panel, sorry, not of the day.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Davin. I am from Fawe Girls School. And my question goes to the Director General, Rwanda Civil Aviation Authority. What is the timeline that the drone is expected to be fully exploited by Rwandans? I mean, the time that a doctor will say, I'm expecting this blood transfusion from here and here, or that a farmer will say, I'm receiving this and this from this place. Yes, and the other thing, I just wanted to call upon us all stakeholders to involve more of the youth in all that we are doing, because even though we carry them at the early stages and we continue working with them up to the harvest stage, then when they reach this stage, it will be such an amazing generation. Yes, thank you so much, and my question, I await an answer. Thank you.
So, we've heard the young student, and we heard you, Davin. So we'll give priority to the young person. So we'll start with her question. Director General, what is the timeline, and how are we involving the youth?
Thank you very much. We have already seen this happen in Rwanda, and I will tell you, today we have recorded 2.2 million flights in miles in Rwanda by a company called Zipline doing blood delivery. Today we have recorded 56,000 deliveries of emergencies. So doctors are receiving these deliveries in real time. So it's happening, but we need to do even more than that. And there is all that is required being put in place to have it happen. I won't be able to put a day, time, date on the exact time we are going to be having it large scale. But we have started, and the trend is not bad.
Thank you, Director General. I will put it to the two regional directors. Someone asked for an insight about regulations being repealed in Kenya and how to address security concerns in nations that want to implement drone regulations. So, Mr. Barry, or Mr. Prosper. Mr. Prosper, s'il vous plaît.
Yes. I will cover the issue of security versus safety. In fact, the ICAO guidance covers both aspects. Because it's what we are doing currently with the general air traffic, that is with manned aircraft, should apply also. So when I mention all ICAO annexes, it includes Annex 17, which covers security. So it's both. It depends on the concept of the operation. It depends on the type of airspace. Is it a reserve airspace? Is it a common airspace? So all these aspects are taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say, maybe to answer his question, we could wait for Friday is a very appropriate day to discuss this. I think Sanjeev, I don't know whether he's here, Astro Aviation, he's got that concern in his presentation. And it's something that we need to discuss. We could also discuss it on the sidelines because it's a long topic. It's very sensitive. The good news I can give you is that we are coming now towards the tail end of the approval of the regulations in Kenya. The Parliament should be approving them very soon. But it was also a very important step to take because you need to have, as Cyrus said, you must have all the stakeholders on board. Otherwise, if you miss out one, then you have challenges. But sorry for the delay. It was a necessary delay to ensure that you don't encounter challenges in the future. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just want to note the presence of the CASOA representative in the room. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to this discussion. If we could just have a mic, please.
Can you have a mic here? He's doing rolling fingers. We are not going to run away from this, Emil. Can you have the mic? Just say a few words.
Thank you very much. Some of the discussions that you're having today, during my presentation and the discussion we have on Friday, we'll touch on that. At CASOA now, we've noticed a few things, also regarding what happened in Kenya. And so, with approval from our board, we've now decided for future rulemaking processes to bring the stakeholders and the regulators from the very beginning as we're creating the draft at CASOA. So during my discussion and presentation on Friday, we'll get more into a lot of those things. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you very much. And I think we had one final question about cost, but for the DG.
Honestly speaking, I wish if we could charge more than that. For two reasons. For the systems that we have applied and deployed, the money we get from you guys is not an inch anywhere what we spend. We have got a number of platforms that are helping us, so every time we allow a drone to fly a given route, we have platforms that do route assessment, that do risk assessment, that look at met patterns, and so many other things. And we have got a department, full-time, 24 hours, that support you guys. And for example, that is an online system where you apply. This is a software, this is a program that has got to be maintained, that has got administrators, that has got people that learn it day and night. And there are other platforms that we use to make sure that the service we give you does not infringe on safety and security. So there are those things that we require that we charge on cost recovery basis. As you go along, as we open up wider, the cost may be higher, but as numbers grow in volumes, the cost may go low. So we don't want to give a free service. It's not a very good incentive. we encourage you to pay for the service you consume. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DG. If we can, yes, we can clap for paying for the service that we receive, but also in future initiatives, there may be areas where there could be hobbyists. So you don't necessarily need to buy a drone for your child. Maybe you can come someplace where there's drones that can be flown in a safe condition, where this provider will have applied for all the necessary clearances so that it doesn't befall each citizen. At this stage, I think George is showing me that we have run out of time. I thank you all for your kind attention. I think just to recap, unless the Secretary General, if you have any final points or you would like to add to any of the discussions, I'd like to close on the panel. I think one of the key points that we've discussed is that the basics are there. There are standards from ICAO. There are lessons to be learned from countries that have implemented the regulations. There needs to be further engagement, and we've heard from the representatives of several CAAs that a platform like this African Drone Forum is needed on an annual basis so that we can accelerate the progress in implementing drone regulations in different countries. So all that is left is a mindset. Acceptance has been touched on. We all need to be able to have a dialogue with one another to address our limitations honestly, and we'll all be able to see a lot more drones in our airspace in the near future. So join me, ladies and gentlemen, in thanking our panel for their insightful comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If I can ask, aside from the SG, can we ask the rest? SG, you are allowed to come down. The rest of you, please wait a moment. Rosa, please do the necessary. And then while she's doing that, there we go. Thank you very, very much.